UI frameworks are an empty promise and a technical debt machine. I despise these things. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for that. I know a lot of people might use these, but personally, they drive me insane. And I've had to use them in a couple different scenarios, and God, I've hated it. God, I hate working with these things. They are so freaking annoying. So I want to go through and lay out the case for you today on why you should just be writing CSS or Tailwind. For the sake of this video, CSS and Tailwind are completely interchangeable. Tailwind's just inline CSS. That's all it is. If you can write one, you can write the other. It really does not matter. But the point I want to make today is that UI frameworks are not good. I do not like these things at all, and they are a massive foot gun that is going to lead to a tremendous amount of technical debt, tremendous amount of issues for you. And as nice as they seem out of the box, as nice as it seems to just have, oh, I just have all my components pre-built, by the time you get into real things that aren't a to-do app, and obviously today we're talking about real world projects, these are great for a little to-do app or a tutorial, but once you get into the real world and your designs get non-trivial and the functionality you need to implement goes beyond the basic, they get so bad so fast. So let's talk about it. Before I get into that, I want to sort of give an update to those of you who are up to date with my nonsense. If you don't care, just skip to wherever I have down there. I always use chapters. So for those of you who are interested, first of all, thank you. Second of all, I have not been doing anything for the past week or so. I've had to catch up on Insider Viz stuff. I've been catching up on work stuff. I was working every single day, putting out a video. It was probably about a 4 to 5 hour time commitment every single day. And it just got to a point where it was capping out the quality on the videos I could make. I was starting to put out filler like AWS CLI setup. Like, yeah, in theory it's useful, but does anyone really care? I mean, you can just read the docs. We're all smart. Stuff's not that hard. So kind of led to me just having to do that. And there are more ambitious projects that I've been wanting to do. Like I want to take Tapir to the next level. I want to do a bunch of stuff with that. I want to do a long form series on Golang basics. And I want to do video I've wanted to make for a while is a front end crash course for back end devs, give you a sort of idea of how things work there. And also do the same thing on the other side of a back end crash course for front end devs, sort of try and give you a bridge the gap a little bit there, because I think that there's some domain knowledge that's worth getting there. And the point is all of these different projects were really just not doable under that model. Putting something out every day was good, and the point of it was not really the point really was not for growth. The point really was for learning, because if you go back and you look at my very first video, I sucked at this. I still arguably do, but a little bit less, at least a little bit. And the whole idea was to just fast track the learning process, learn how to edit, learn how to talk, learn how to formulate these ideas, learn how to actually do this. I'm still learning, still going to continue to learn, but I think that my learning is kind of capped off, and I want to spend more time actually thinking these through more, editing more, getting them cleaner, that kind of thing. So with all that said, I'm going to be moving towards probably 2 to 3 a week, not guaranteed, but probably in that range, and focusing much more on quality over quantity. One other thing that I wanted to sort of plug here, if you're interested, is we are starting a closed beta for Insider Viz. We're trying to ship a bunch of new features, and if you're interested in joining up and getting involved with that and giving us one-on-one feedback and trying to really help us make this project awesome, then I would love to have you. There's a Discord link down in the description. Please join. Even if you're not too interested in the direct feedback, we'd still love to have you there. We're trying to grow this more, and we need to figure out what you guys want to see. I got huge updates coming to that site, and I'm probably going to do some finance stuff. Probably going to make a separate channel for that, because I think there's a lot of dev to finance overlap, but I doubt there's a lot of finance to dev overlap. I sort of see those two worlds as the finance is way bigger because it applies to everyone, versus there's only so many people who are interested in intermediate to advanced developer content. So it is what it is. And I know that was very rambly. If you made it to here, thank you as always. And with all that rambling out of the way, let's talk about UI frameworks and why these things suck so much. Now, what do I mean when I'm talking about a UI framework? I am obviously not talking about React or Vue or Svelte. Those are front-end frameworks. What I'm talking about is stuff like Mantine, stuff like Material UI, stuff like Bootstrap, all these different things, where what they will do is they will give you out-of-the-box, pre-styled, pre-built UI components that you can sort of plug into your app, and they basically give you these little building blocks, and you can just build your app accordingly. If we go and we look at the docs, so say for Mantine right here, we go and we look at these docs, this seems really nice. Let's go in here to Mantine core. We go into our flex right here. So wow, for Flexbox, I can just put this in right here. I just import flex here and then I put my buttons in and they're all styled for me nicely. It just works. It seems really great on the surface. On the surface, it's really nice to have Material UI. I mean, look at all of these different components you could have. You could just slot those right into your app. It's great. But the problem is, as per many things, this does not take the real world into account, and it can lead to a lot of really annoying things. And one of the biggest issues that you're going to run into here is the customizability on these is usually not super good. They have a lot of ways to do it in here. Like obviously you can just set the gap in here, or if we go into like a button on here, we can change the color, we can change the disabled, compact. There's a ton of different levers you can pull on here. But the problem is you're pulling the levers they give you, and you're completely relying on all of your UI being tied to someone else. Someone else is under the hood managing all of this stuff, and all of this is getting plugged in. You're importing all of their styles, you're adding all of their stuff, and it can get really hard and really tricky and annoying to go through and actually update these to a true custom design. Again, what I'm talking about today is real projects where you have a real designer, the kind of stuff you're going to be doing in the real world. If you're just doing a side project for yourself, maybe this is okay, but personally, I would argue that there's no such thing as a design so trivial that you shouldn't just write custom CSS, especially with how easy that it's gotten with Tailwind. I think that Tailwind has made it so freaking easy to write very fast CSS that I would argue that a good Tailwind developer or a good CSS developer can move just as fast as you can with these component libraries, and they can move better. And that is the key right there, is you can do so much better stuff with custom designs. CSS is one of the foundations of web development. The three sort of pillars we have of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you're going to be developing front ends, you need to be able to understand all three of these. And my problem with these UI frameworks is they abstract away that knowledge of CSS. CSS is vital to understand. I know it's weird, but it's not actually that hard. I think it's overhyped with how difficult it is. It's really not too difficult to get stuff to actually work, and the amount of stuff you can do with it is insane. You can do animations, transitions, you can style stuff however you want. You can do so much stuff that you can't do with these frameworks, and these frameworks are foot guns that you're putting into your app. You're setting it so that, hey, you have to use these, or if you want to try and escape hatch them, now you have all these extra styles being imported. You have all this extra boilerplate being added. Your node modules gets bloated up. You get all this crap in your app for no real benefit except for your app is slightly quicker to write, even though in the long run it's not going to be quicker, because when you need to do detailed customization, you can't. These things are not going to help you in the long run. They are going to make you a weaker developer. They are going to make you crutch on using some external component library to do very basic stuff that you should be able to do. You should be able to make all of these custom. You should be able to add all of this in. And when you do that custom, it's going to make your app far better, far more performant. I hate that I always use this as the example, but it's just because it's mine and I built it. All of this is completely custom CSS. For our graph, we're using D3 under the hood. That is a super lightweight visualization tool. All of this is custom styled. This could not be done with these little UI framework things. You can't use these to build anything outside of what they give you, and by the time you try and make something outside of it, you're just going to be trying to escape from these things. And the thing that gets really, really painful with these is you're going to end up with this terrible little mishmash of half your stuff is going to be using Mantine or MUI or whatever. Half of it's going to be using custom CSS. The two are going to be fighting with each other. You're going to have like the Mantine Flex class or whatever, and you're going to be debugging your UI trying to figure out what the heck is going on because you're trying to do something outside of the basics. You're trying to do something non-trivial, and this is fighting you. You're trying to do all this different stuff. There's a weird CSS reset going on in here. It is an absolute nightmare. So what I would do is I would just write CSS. It is not that hard. That is what I want to hammer home for you guys, is that especially if you're newer or whatever and you don't really know and you're looking at these different things, you will probably see these in tutorials, and you will see people build decent looking stuff. So they'll build pretty cool looking stuff really fast with these. But the problem is that just does not scale to the real world, and you're going to be able to make better stuff with custom CSS. And like I said earlier, by custom CSS, I mean CSS or Tailwind, one of the two. They're one and the same. I really, I think that the argument between the two is purely an ergonomics argument. I don't think that there's any substantial difference. And to be honest, when I'm using one, I'm basically using the other. I typically my workflow is I have Tailwind, and then I also have but I also write some external custom CSS on the side for stuff like more complex animations, or if I need to use the after tag or something like that. You can do that within Tailwind, but it gets kind of gross. So I like to sort of mix the two. Maybe that's heresy. I don't really know. You yell at me if it is. But really, it all just comes down to writing CSS is not as difficult as people make it out to be, and these frameworks are not going to help you. They are going to hurt you in the long run. It is short-term gain for long-term pain. That's all this stuff is. Makes it slightly easier to get a janky MVP out the door, but as soon as you need to scale it, as soon as you need to make it real, as soon as your designs get non-trivial, and when you're working at a real company, when you're doing real work outside of like tutorials and stuff, you're gonna have designs that are far more complex, far more interactive and impressive than what you're going to get out of a Bootstrap app or what you're going to get out of an MUI app. These things are not going to help you. You need to be able to go in and turn these levers on your own. So if there's one thing you take away from this, please, please, please learn to write CSS. It's really not that hard. But I just wanted to get this out there, give my thoughts on this. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like and subscribe as always, and I will talk to you guys later.